go ahead and get this started. Oh, you know what? I need to check one more thing. That should be fine. Why isn't this showing up? Oh, probably have to change this. Okay. There we go. Guess we have to do that now. Get rid of that. No? Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, I think all of that should be good. Sweet. That's set up for now. Now I think I have a couple places to go. No, the game sound. Did it change my sound settings again? I got no music. No, it's just not playing any. Okay. Well, there should be a place here. Deliver the bomb, 4-player. Not you. Not you. There we go. That's it. That has rare and epic perk up. I need those, so I'm going to go ahead and grab them. Alright, so we're probably going to be here for a bit because this has a lot of perk up that I need, and it'll be nice to actually get a few more weapons maxed out. Alright, so we definitely want that. Get rid of those. And this is still junk compared to my weapons, so that's scrapped. And so is this. I wonder what server I'm connected to. This is a little laggy. Shouldn't be too bad though. So the launcher is there. Anybody find the armory yet? There, nope. That's just for the glow, which nobody has, so I'll just go do that now. So probably be 2 minutes, yeah. Whoa. They can have that. Okay, A is to my left. Can't do that. I have to do it up here. Yeah, unless we want to go all the way around. Are we really? Okay. There we go. Alright, so that should be simple enough. The fact that you don't seem to be able to drop teddies on tracks is kind of annoying. I'm not sure if it's just to make sure that you can't actually like block the bomb, because teddies don't move for like 30 seconds in some cases, and mine is a 30-second teddy. Good, I got credit for both. This is a very odd looking building. I don't think this part is ever really necessary. Oh nice, he's got a revolt. It's a pretty good pistol. Not like best pistol in game status, but close. The lag's not making a huge difference, but it's still bothering me. So is this? This one still has the mag. Alright, and then I need to change. I didn't hear anything about the bowler coming out tomorrow. The bowler is probably going to be in whatever the next content update is. What's supposed to be in the shop tomorrow should be the silenced, or the Wraith assault rifle. It's basically silenced Nocturno from the looks of it. I don't know if it's going to have the same stats as the Noc, but should be pretty decent. I mean, the game's been flooded with like decent assault rifles in the past couple of updates, like during the Blockbuster event. So we'll see when we get it. Usually they decide to throw the launchers in right before they end events. So basically, whenever I see the launcher, I think that's when they're going to decide to start to get ready to change the event. So it should happen, if not next week, then right before we get whatever they decide to do for the Halloween event. Not sure what the delay is on the YouTube stream at the moment. But let me know if you caught all that, buddy. Thanks for coming out, by the way. I don't know. Like, the launchers aren't always the best. Like, in the original Fortnitemares event, the launcher was the worst possible reward. And that's not even including the fact that you had to sacrifice 3 legendary survivors to get it, which at the time were like nearly impossible to get. Like you only had a small chance of getting a few tickets from the event per day, and then the rarity of the legendary survivors was ridiculous in the first place. And what are we gonna do here? I'm sure I got a ton of floor spikes. It looks like we're getting hit from all sides too. So why don't we try something like... However, the Gravedigger was a really solid assault rifle at the time, so that was nice. Okay, we can get these guys to come over here. And I don't want to invite anybody from over on this side, so let's just throw a couple things over here. You too, Putty. Have a good night. And again, thanks for coming by. Hope you rest well. I should actually probably finish setting up whatever I was trying to do over here, so... Holy crap. I don't know if this guy knows how launchers work, but using unleveled launchers on a nearly end twine or end candy map is not going to work out too well. Okay, if I can get all of them to walk through these traps, we're good. Forgot to drop something there. And I never put the launcher that I wanted to in there. Hopefully we don't even have to worry about their really weak floor launchers. Alright, that's my fault. I gave her an unfinished rifle. Wait, why are we taking so much damage? I'll get one as soon as I figure out what the heck is going on. are we taking all of this damage from? Wait, what? No, I have to do it over here. That's weird. There we go. That's clean. Do they actually get? No, they're only. These are actually launching them. Wow. How low is the impact on a regular husk if an unleveled wall launcher will flip them? Alright, good. I didn't know if that was going to count or not, but that means that sniper rifles used on defenders do count for weapon challenges or weapon dailies. So if you get one and you have a weapon but you don't prefer using it yourself, you can take defense missions, then just load yourself up on defenders and have them use the weapon for you. So if I had a second level sniper defender, then I could deploy 2 and have them just murder a crowd of husks. Sweet. Alright, this negligibly decent amount of perk up. I think we can go ahead and jump back into that. It means about every 2 missions we should be able to level up a rare. And every 3 we're guaranteed a little bit more than a single epic. Excuse me. Isn't that great? Could do another one of these. I'm going to be using the Raider soon. Both physical. This one has better mods. Okay. I wanted to make this something strong. A good choice would probably be to go with... Not sure what my pistol loadouts look like yet. Might want to come back. And I don't know what this legendary perk is going to be, so I'm going to leave this slot empty too. I have a second one, so let's go with water for now. I feel like this area is probably going to be important whenever they release the second half of the candy story. This shows up in a lot of maps, but doesn't actually have a purpose yet, and it wasn't used in the Candy Part 1 story at all. Gotta be for me. Alright, let's see what we can do about linking B. Ramp exists, which should be pretty good. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm finished editing one of the videos to finish Cygnus. I have one more to edit, and then the Tundra playthrough is going to be starting up after that. And then next week, I'm probably going to fire up some Chaos Trials, since I have like somewhere around 25 keys now. It'd be fun. Wow, thanks. I appreciate it. A lot of people have been asking me to get into this, so I think, well, there's a bunch of new things that I'm going to be doing in the future. One is starting to stream a bit more, just because I don't think everything needs like edited videos, and the editing will take much longer than me actually just jumping on and playing the games. Uh, but also so I can get more stuff done. Days when I have the time, I'll probably get a bunch of stuff recorded and then edited throughout the week. That way you guys get more regularly scheduled videos, and then whenever I don't have anything scheduled that's like, you know, the Orcs content at the moment, then we'll have streams so everybody can talk and chill and, you know, pretty much do whatever, just hang out. So I'm not sure if you were the one that asked for Tundra specifically. I know there was somebody that did. But is there a character you're looking forward to? Oh. Oh yeah, Bloodspike's a good one. I think he's one of the characters I feel has probably been overlooked the most by most of the newer players. But I don't think that was because like he's bad or anything. He's actually like one of the best characters in the game. I think it's because there's really not a lot of info on how to play like melee heroes, and they all actually play very differently due to their different health ranges and abilities. Nice. Well, your wish shall be granted. That Tundra pole shot up ridiculously fast. Like, it looked like it was neck and neck between Tundra and Ivy at one point, and then everything just swung to Tundra. So I don't think that's really Bloodspike's fault. And even though Bloodspike does really low damage in squads, it's because the game naturally disadvantages DPS heroes, or heroes that are primarily focused on just dealing damage when you're in a group, which is really weird. And one of the videos that I was thinking about putting out like really early was about like the group dynamics in Orcs Must Die Unchained and how detrimental they are to like half the cast. Like all the crowd control heroes that basically like are really hard to play if you're solo are great in teams, because when you combine their abilities they get exponentially better. Whereas with the DPS heroes, because all of your cooldowns and everything basically compound with your weakened attack damage, they become incredibly worse. Like that's the only game I've ever played where that specific dynamic happens. And there's very little benefit to playing in a group. When you count the split coin income and then the lower damage, unless you're playing a very specific way. Shooting pillows, basically. These storms should be static, I believe. How hard do I want to make this tunnel? Could just do it like this and put another one of... I don't have one made. Alright. My favorite hero is Zoe. It was originally Smolder, and then I just liked Zoe a ton after I actually got her unlocked. Also, the ridiculous amount of nerfing that Smolder went through with the initial changes in the game after they like changed the account leveling system multiple times, and then completely rebalanced all of the heroes after they dropped Siege, was like ridiculous. Like Smolder went from being probably the easiest hero to run through the game with to one of the hardest to actually use in the game, both in a solo scenario and in teams at the same time. I was like, wow. Yeah. And like, I don't think that was intentional. I think it was just a byproduct of them rebalancing the game. And I mean, like, I have to give the devs credit. There's a lot of things that were extremely hard to do with what they were doing with orcs. And from a design standpoint, like, the production of the game seemed very uncoordinated. And that was kind of problematic. Like, every change that they tried to do to kind of save the community and get people to like have interest in it was like really disjointed, and at the same time, like the designs, it was happening to Beast Creeper. The designs for all the heroes weren't completely thought through when they decided that they were going to rebalance the game. So I don't know. It feels like a game that never quite hit that point where it was finished, and I'm kind of sad about that. Incinerate. You're talking about her, like, I think they actually buffed that. They buffed that to the point where it hits almost everything you can see. No, dude, I'm just playing because they have some stuff that I need to collect to boost some weapons for later on. But you know, I like the save the world aspect of Fortnite. I think it is an interesting game due to the fact that it's kind of like teetering on the edge of being a lot of different things. Like it has like the loot aspects of a like your hack and slash dungeon crawler, but it also has like a ton of MMO components. Yeah, like the important thing about Smolder's Incinerate is that that is the right ability I'm thinking of. Yeah, it is Incinerate. All right, so Incinerate's the fire tornado. It's the thing that where she stands still for a second, casts it, and then everything basically blows up. So it's a really good ability. The problem is using it is kind of tricky because it only affects people that are or minions that are on fire. The prerequisite of setting things on fire can be achieved either through traps or Smolder's abilities. So if you can set things on fire with her Heart of Flame, that works really well. And the tricky thing about it is really just that the fire duration is really low. If it was any higher, you'd be really fine. But because you only have 3 seconds to choose to ignite things, that's what makes it hard to use. But my preferred way to use it is to use slow traps and then combine both Spitfires and Floor Scorchers. They'll do the setting the enemies on fire for you, and using Heart of Flame to trigger anything that's close. And then you just run through a crowd and then trigger Incinerate, and everybody that's been on fire from the traps or your Heart of Flame, dash is going to basically get hit. I think that Smolder would have been a much better hero if they swapped her 2 abilities. They should have made her primary attack a long-range fireball that explodes and sets enemies on fire. It wouldn't have to deal a ton of damage. The important thing would be that the AoE fire was done. And then from there, you'd be able to use Incinerate. And then have her primary attack be like sort of a short-range cone of flame. It would have made like her playstyle more in line with most of the other like lower health heroes. And it feels like it's the same idea that they were going with just making sure that she had sort of the close range explosion on death and making that more useful. And it wouldn't have saved her from being like from having all the issues that she has just in the game period, because she's one of the few heroes that has no stuns and no hard crowd control. The most she gets is adding a slow to Incinerate, which is already hard to trigger. But it definitely would have helped. So, if you mean, is the game getting updates anymore? No. Robot has had like a lot of tricky financials going on, and I'm pretty sure that they put most of their resources into trying to get Unchained off the ground, and it did not. That said, the game is going to stay active for a while. I don't know how long. And it won't get any more updates unless there's an influx of new players that actually spend money on it. So basically, unless a bunch of new people decide to join the game and purchase some boxes or some skins, we're not going to see updates to it. Whether or not it stays active probably depends on whatever Robot decides to do in the future. It's likely going to be them working on another game, because they didn't shut down. They just laid off, I guess, the staff that was working on the updates and everything for Unchained, because it wasn't making enough money to keep everybody on. And I mean, that's not even like I know how much they make or anything. That's just from the situation with the number of players accessing the game after its launch. It spiked to about maybe about 2,000 unique users for a little while, and that's even if you were like, even if all of those 2,000 players were whales, it would be relatively difficult to keep the game active with the number of people that they had on staff. Because you're talking about 30 people's salaries at least, and if they had 2,000 whales on the game, spending about $250 a month, then they would be making about, well, that's enough to keep everybody on. Yeah, I know what you mean, but it doesn't mean like it doesn't mean that there's no chance that the game will actually survive. Again, I think robots sitting on something, and when they're ready, we'll find out what it is. But until they actually decide to say something, we'll have no idea. And that's really the worst part about it. They're not super transparent with the way things are going, but nobody really wants to talk about not being successful, and nobody would really want to report on like unsuccessful companies when all the money is chasing the successful ones. Like somebody will write a stupid article about like a mom yelling at her kid over Fortnite before they write anything about the success or financials of indie development company. Like it's just not going to happen. But when you have voices like mine, then I can go ahead and just decide to talk about whatever I want. And even if it's not like, I don't have to necessarily chase numbers with talking about any of the stuff that I do, because I really just do what I do for fun. I mean, keep enjoying the game while it's here. I mean, very few games that are sort of games as a service last forever. And I didn't expect Orcs Must Die Unchained to be around forever, but if it's around for, 5-6 years, then that'll be great. Like, when the server shut down, that'll be a sad day. But they've had games that had their players dwindle over time significantly and still have been around for quite some time. And I mean, the Orcs Must Die 2 servers are still online, so them taking Orcs Must Die Unchained servers offline is not likely unless something really, really bad happens at Robot. So things aren't necessarily as bad as they seem. Right, but what I'm saying is like Orcs Must Die 2 hasn't been selling at a significant profit for an extremely long time. I mean, all right, when if I'm going to talk about creators pitching in for Robot, like Robot had a bunch of very odd, what I would think of as missteps when marketing Orcs Must Die Unchained, because originally what they wanted to do is they wanted a competitive game in the Orcs Must Die franchise that would primarily be marketed to China, if I remember correctly, because I'm not sure if most people are aware of it, but Tencent owns a significant stake in Robot now, probably a majority. I don't know the exact specifics, but you can find it online. They bought a good amount of the company. So with that done, they basically went, okay, make us a game that, you know, we can basically make a ton of money off of. And essentially what they were going to do is make a Orcs Must Die MOBA. They didn't intend on making a MOBA, but the general idea is competitive PvP with any sort of competitive PvP with any sort of RPG mechanics generally turns into a MOBA, just due to the nature of how the game is played. Like, you have to really tread carefully to try to get the gameplay into a different space than actually being a MOBA, but it's basically what it turned into, and it was a really complicated one. Like, there was lots of ideas that you had to grasp that generally, you know, gravitated towards MOBA stuff, but then there were some things that were extremely and very uniquely Orcs Must Die, like the armor bonuses and the way that those kind of shifted around guardians, and then the bonus experience or the leadership experience you would get from leading minions. And then you had like the killing of players to gain experience as a defender. There's a lot of really weird roles, a lot of different characters. They all played extremely different in every role that they could fill. And because of that, a lot of people didn't stick around with it. And the matchmaking never picked up significantly because the player base was divided between their survival and the survival side of the game, which is what Orcs is known for. Yeah, the hero-specific traps were actually a really important part of Siege. But also there were traps that would damage heroes that make it almost impossible for anybody to actually try to lead their minions through any particular trap way. And from there, what you had was people like stacking to basically just pound noobs, and it became a really big problem to getting people in the game, like a barrier. And those people were completely unapologetic. But I mean, you shouldn't necessarily have to apologize for winning. If there wasn't a matchmaking system or anything put in place to make sure that, you know, people were trying to fight somebody that was relatively close to their level and there wasn't a decent population of people, that was going to happen anyway. But yeah, like the low population for the game is something that plagued it from the beginning. And it's a very dangerous thing when your game relies on population to actually function, and you don't get a significant amount of players to buy in immediately. Like, even if the game is free, games that have a population requirement fall really hard. And you can see that with things like Radical Heights. That was Boss Key Studios' last game, and there wasn't enough people to actually, you know, fill up those very well, and it didn't catch on. Oh, dude, Boom Barrel dispensers are amazing. Like, it was funny because I thought that there was something wrong with them for a while because their trap damage was never counted until they fixed that bug. And I do matches where I know I'm doing like millions of damage with boom barrel rollers, and just nothing would happen. But then they fixed it, and I'm like, okay, there's the 22 million damage I dealt. And it's just such a unique trap that, like, you can use them in places that you'd never have been able to use anything else. And that's the kind of stuff that I like. Yeah, I think for mine, I mainly just use the self-improving coils. And then, you know, after they've been out for 10 rounds, you got them going at 60% bonus speed. Pretty much. Yeah, man, Rift Lord Baths is definitely an interesting map just getting into it because it's supposed to be super easy, but like depending on the hero, it can play very differently. And I mean, before you get into Rift Lord, because there's some traps that you can't have access to yet, unless you've magically hit level 40 by grinding the earlier levels, it can be somewhat of a challenge. I agree. Like, I even think that Stink Eye's new totems are hard to use correctly, but they're definitely more straightforward than his old totems were. That and Stink Eye being pretty much the best combo character in the game is kind of ridiculous. What are they doing? Man, Stink Eye's like old laser lines, yeah, those were just stupidly overpowered. Like, in some cases, they could clear an entire wave without any traps. And that was, I think that was at that point that the devs realized they were OP and they were like, yeah, we got to change this. But I think that was indicative of just how little like actual time they were putting into testing a lot of stuff, like just for balance. And that means that they were rushing. And at that point, that's like, I mean, it was even before that that I realized that there were probably some issues. Looking for a frag. Oh, a fragment. Yeah, I got most of the heroes before I leveled up any traps, so I know that feeling. But that also means that your account level is usually a bit higher than average when you're going through the maps, just because you're clearing everything. Especially if you've been farming up the hero chests. Indestructible garbage can. I could use one of those. Yeah, there's so much like stuff to do in the game now though. That it's kind of sad that after they put all of these features and stuff in, like the chaos chests, is when they have the lowest amount of people actually playing the game. Like if all of that stuff was kind of in as features before launch, it would have been great. Okay, why did we... They blocked it with a teddy. These guys are special. Yeah, Brass's turret is amazing. I mean, Brass as a character in general is just really great. And that was one of the characters that it's unfortunate that they managed to nerf before they stopped working on the game, because in her unnerfed form, she was just like probably one of my favorite heroes overall. But unfortunately, we no longer have Super Saiyan Brass. But with the turret being great, well, no, I mean, that's not necessarily true because Super Saiyan Brass came at the cost of like her. Yeah, but like with the changes that they made, you have the opportunity to do like to basically just have a super bomb cache now. You can stack so many bombs that you can destroy most stuff like relatively easily, especially if you're playing solo. Cuz bomb spam is like probably one of the most powerful things in the game. I mean, every character has their strats in the game, and they didn't decide to nerf too many of those. Like, even though Smolder is not nearly as powerful as she was when I started playing the game, just due to all the mechanics changes, like she still has some things like the rapid leveling. Um, yes and no. Against a single boss, Max is in your face is great. Against multiple bosses, Brass can still outdamage him. Because remember, you can pre-plan where you set your bombs up. So if you need it, like 7 bombs in one place, you can just do it. No problem, Mike. You will probably see. Oh, got a stink bomb. You'll probably see more videos coming out towards the end of the week. I just want to get the second one up so I can release them in order and then start working on the Tundra stuff because I don't think anybody is going to come and vote for any of the other heroes before I get Tundra started on. And once I start on them, I'm going to finish. I think we can get away with what? Oh, I do votes for the heroes that I'm going to play next on the channel. It's on the community tab. I trapped myself. But yeah, like I usually take suggestions that people leave and whichever characters I put in the previous polls and then put them in versus a handful of other characters that I pick. And generally that's how I decide which character is going up next. All right. I actually have done, I think, a full playthrough with Stink Eye. I would have to double check that. I probably just played a few matches with him and didn't do like a complete one because I don't think I have. If I did finish with him, I'd have had a hero overview video in the works by now. So yeah, but Stink Eye is definitely a favorite. Wow. I don't know. Stink Eye is definitely an amazing hero. Like, I think the reason that he doesn't get a lot of love is, again, he's one of those heroes that's gone through a ton of changes. So if at any point you liked Stink Eye, he's probably no longer the Stink Eye that you liked. But Stink Eye is one of the few heroes where like every version of his character was good. Even before they did like the complete rebalancing of the game, he was one of the few characters that I really liked to play with. Although his passive ability or like character specific wasn't really good. Yeah, he was probably the best character in the game, hands down, with the lasers. Like, there was no chance for anybody else to beat him. And then after they got rid of the lasers, he was just, like, really good. But yeah, the devs figured that his execution ceiling was so high that, and, you know, when done right, it was so imbalanced that they wanted to bring him closer to what the other heroes could do, which, in my opinion, is always kind of a detriment to the game. Because it was just a really unique playstyle and interesting to actually like experiment with and figure out. But even when, you know, multiple people were telling them that stuff like that was a bad idea, they were like, eh, that's what we want to do. Kind of. Like, I still feel personally like some of the nerfs that took place in that game were so that they could sell loot boxes and they weren't allowed to say it. And I'm not talking about the one specifically for the heroes, though some of that was in there too. If a hero could solo a level with no traps, it was they would automatically get that hero nerfed. Well, they accidentally nerfed Bianca a bit too much at first. And so, again, this is where I'm saying that they didn't have enough time to test that game when they were doing stuff. Uh, they nerfed Bianca so hard that she actually required way more like coding to be put back together properly. Like they knew some stuff should have been nerfed, but I think when people finally reported it, it turned out that they had nerfed her in like 8 different places, and she was supposed to be nerfed in 2. So, like, they had to figure out how to get her damage level back to where it was supposed to be. She had to be given um, a custom way of diminishing her multi-hit weapon damage if she hit multiple minions. Um, they had to add some abilities or some of the slow back to one of her abilities, and then they also had to edit the duration of something else. Like she had just been nerfed so hard that she was doing less damage than she was supposed to do. Her stuns weren't there, and like everything just didn't work. And as fast and loose as things were flying in Robot, it was just very interesting. I don't feel like blowing this gold, but it will probably be a good idea. Because this store is going to update tomorrow, and then I'm going to have to purchase that gun anyway. What time is it? She was off for a little while. They did get her back to approximately where I think they wanted her. Approximately. I'm not sure exactly where they wanted her in the first place. Reload speed's probably better than mag damage here. That's the best choice. Oh man, Zoe's my favorite hero. She just Zoe is the appeal of Zoe is that she's basically close to enemies all the time, and everything she does deals damage. Like she has a mix of really odd crowd control abilities, like Book Club and Phoebe's Wrath. So she can have two crowd control abilities. One being a short range knockback that can add a slow or a stun, and then the other one being a combination of a pull and slow that does a ton of damage. Because of that, I think it's actually really interesting how she works out. And because she is only like mostly really close range for everything except for her primary attack, most of her abilities do a lot of damage. And when you learn to cycle through her damage types to maintain her attack speed boost, she's just ridiculously powerful. I think that's what I'm going to go for, the crit. Ralphie's isn't even worth using anymore. Sad. Yeah, Zoe's basically an elemental machine gun. I mean, that's probably the best way to play her for the majority of situations. Like, rarely is it a good idea to choose anything else than building her that way. Um, there are some situations if you're in multiplayer or for weekly challenges where you might want to make some different choices, but usually that's the way you do it. What was available to this thing? All right, that's definitely the best choice. Crit damage over crit rating. Yes, because we have a crit rating. And that one can't become anything related to crit. So crit damage and crit rating is probably the best choice. Although if you go double crit, it's not that bad. Yeah, this farming is a lot slower than I initially expected, and I'm almost capped on gold. Like, I can switch games. Not really married to Fortnite at the moment. And I don't think there's really anything that I need to do here. I already finished I don't need to win that Legendary Survivor right now. I don't even have access to it. Oh, well. The windows appear to be borked, so I'd have to close and reopen some things anyway. And the thing about Fortnite is just really just a big grind, and I knew that from the beginning. The difference is just now the grind is actually reasonably not forever. And I got some guns I like. But other than that, not too much appeal. I don't know, maybe I'll switch over for like the last hour and do some Dauntless. Let's do some Dauntless. All right, go ahead and get everything switched over. What is this? Orcs Must Die lobby looks rather suspicious. Oh wow, that's really weird. So I didn't realize that I'm still broadcasting. Yeah, it looks like it's working. Um what's happening, VG? I didn't realize the Streamlabs automatically tossed in a donation link. All right, so I can switch to Dauntless, at which point I'll probably be playing alone. Or if you guys want, I can fire up some orcs. Okay, orcs it is. All right, VG, I am going to post a link in the chat so you can take a look at it. It is essentially a indie dev team creating what they feel is sort of a love letter to Monster Hunter and the types of games that spawn from it. It's large monsters, multiple weapon types, like gatherable items, crafting, and then you fight the large beast to basically turn their parts into equipable gear that you can use. The game is currently an open beta, so it's very unfinished. There's a lot of things that they have plans on doing for it, including increasing the number of weapons available to players, as well as just adding more monsters to fight and various different types of things. But it is a relatively good play. If you're a fan of any Monster Hunter type games, Hunter likes, then it's probably a good time for you. But it is unoptimized at the moment. And that's something that everybody has had an issue with. Even people running amazing machines have like some frame drops and stutters. You may not have perfect frame rate, or you may. I don't know. I don't know how great your machine is, but I definitely do not. And many people running mid-range to high-end PCs have talked about issues with it. But don't let that detract you from playing the game. It is still a good amount of fun, and learning how to use the weapons is very interesting. That said, let me actually add orcs into this here. Okay, this I need to actually Boom. And we have orcs starting. I'm using a different streaming program. I'm trying to Streamlab stuff out to see exactly how well this runs, which is also why I didn't know that Streamlabs was going ahead and basically posting a donation link in my stream. I literally just found that out about 30 seconds ago. Wait, is Orcs not starting? No. Okay. That means I have to reboot. So give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and relaunch. On Dauntless, it is going to be full name. That right there. Yeah, I noticed that I don't even have donations or anything set up. So I was like, huh, that's sort of weird. I may switch back to the regular OBS for doing streams in the future though, just because if I'm not accepting donations, it would be pointless to have a link there. And I think somebody asked me about it last stream. But either way, I did a driver update. It looks like that update is causing orcs to not be able to open. So I'm going to reboot real quick, and then this will kill the stream for a second. Once I am back on, which will probably be about, I don't know, 2-3 minutes, we should have a stream going. And then, you know, everybody can jump on Orcs. If you guys aren't my friend on Orcs Must Die Unchained, feel free to add me. I should be M Dragoon there. And I'll be back in a little bit.